from Denny Hamlin. Caution flag is out. Thought for a moment they may leave this race green. David Rudiman got going very, very quickly, but NASCAR decided to go ahead and put out the caution flag.
Had to be some contact. You got a lot of things going on in that part of the racetrack and that part of the pack. A lot of guys, faster cars like the Harvicks and those guys coming up through there. Rudiman, running a good line, running, great pace. A lot of cars looking for one piece of real estate right there.
Good news for David Rudiman in the Aaron's Dream Machine. He did not lose a lap. Let's see if we can take a look. There's Kenny Wallace, the 22, right in front of David Rudiman. Here comes Greg Biffle in the 66. There's the contact we were thinking we saw right there. That was Greg Biffle in the Cup Cadet, number 66.
Just ever so slightly. You can see him. There's not much you can do. I mean, these cars, you're already on the edge. You're trying to run them as free as you possibly can, especially at the beginning of a run, and it doesn't take much contact.
This is Kenny Wallace's onboard. We're going to see the 99 turnaround right in front of him, right behind him. I'm sorry, Greg Biffle got into the back of David Rudiman.
Biffle just decided he didn't want Rudiman up in that spot. Looks like David looked like he had a little bit of a run going, trying to slide him to the top of the racetrack to try to get a run outside of Kenny Wallace. And Greg Biffle was right there, but Greg could have cut him a little bit of a break right there, but just decided that he thought it was going to take too much of his momentum away and didn't want to get out of the gas.
David Rudiman caught up with the field. He will make his way down pit road, I'm sure, to, if not to change tires, certainly to look at his tires. There's Greg Biffle. The contact was so slight, I don't think there's any damage to the front end of that car. What
do you think we'll see on pit stops? Do you think anybody will pit? Here we are, be 25 laps into the race. What do you think, Phil?
Be 25 laps, that's 37.5 miles. I'm not sure. I think probably more than likely the cars at the back of the pack are going to come in for adjustments, and whether they put tires on or not, they may want to save their tires. All these teams get 6 tires for the weekend. You can use them however you want. Most of the teams will use probably 2 sets of tires in practice, and they will put enough laps on them that they would not want to use them in the race. So you will have 4 sets of tires for the race, 1 to start on and 3 to put on during the race. So some of these drivers, I think if they need some serious adjustments, they may go ahead and make the adjustments with air pressure, change tires, and I'm not sure that we're going to see the cars up front stop.
Hermie was talking about when you get in an incident and you come on the pit road and they beat the fenders out, and sometimes they get a little bit more, which makes the car a little bit better. Do you think any of these guys will come in and try putting a template on there, just making sure they're exactly right?
Kyle Busch, the 5 car, stays on pit road. Several other cars coming down pit road. There's Carl Edwards coming back to the racetrack. A number of laps down, but there's our Denny Hamlin, our early leader on pit road. This is our Craftsman pit stop.
Reed Sorensen missed his pit box getting on pit road. He completely missed his pit sign trying to get in his pits. Mark, can you add more on Reed Sorensen?
Well, right now, guys, he came into his pit. He spun it sideways. They started to make adjustments. The NASCAR official said, no way. If you keep doing that, we're going to have to penalize you. So he is now putting the car about 3/4 of the way in the box. And this is a very, very tough pit stop for this race team because they were running fairly well. We're only going to make a slight adjustment on this car. And now we're understanding his transmission is stuck in gear. So more problems for Reed Sorensen here under this caution flag than perhaps they would have bargained for.
Mark, yet another problem from one of the Nextel Cup regulars. It's amazing how the complexion of this race has changed from the time they dropped the green flag. Let's take a look back at the spin by Reed Sorensen. Looks like he just locked the brakes up.
Well, he just almost overshot his pit. I mean, it wasn't an issue of somebody getting into him or him spinning necessarily. He just came by. They didn't, that's got to be the job of the spotter or the crew chief to count him into his pit box. He simply just drove right by his pit box and tried to cut in too late, and it's going to cause him go from second all the way to the back of the pack. Mark, can you add more on this?
Guys, sometimes you create your own problems with something that you change that's very simple. They changed the pit sign for this race team. It hangs out over pit wall. It just says discount tire. And apparently, Reed Sorensen just missed it. I mean, he was coming in. He was looking for his pits, but it wasn't not the normal pit sign. He was about to blow on by side late. Of course, stomped on the brakes. That cut him sideways and began the spin here on pit road. Now we're understanding that he was able to get the get the car out of second gear, and so they think that perhaps they have solved that issue, although here is Reed Sorensen again coming into the pit area. Things that went so right early on have gone so wrong now for him, so they brought him in. They're going to top him off with Sunoco fuel and send him back on out. So they just decided on the top off perhaps to buy a lap or two later on tonight.
There's the 50 car of Danny O'Quinn on pit road. They're looking at the right front fender. I don't know if he made some contact with somebody.
that kind of mistake for Reed Sorensen's a kind of mistake. You cannot make that kind of mistake and expect to win, this type of race. The guy's got a fast race car running up front, up in the top 2 or 3, and this is going to be very, very difficult for him to get back through this traffic, and have a chance to win this race. I'm sure he'll get back. He's fast enough to get back in contention, but will he ever be able to recover all the way back up to the front?
Guys, there's another one of our top 10 points having some trouble. That's Kenny Wallace. They did some repairs to the front of that car. Obviously, he made some contact with somebody. They put the 200-mile-an-hour tape on that AutoZone Ford. Doesn't look like he's got a great deal of damage. It looked like he just poked a hole right above the grill into the hood.
Just a lot of bumping and grinding. We're seeing a lot of guys with hood damage and nose damage and fender damage. We're getting ready to go green right here, guys. So he's going to have to catch up to the field.
Carl Edwards is back on the racetrack. He's this car right here on the inside. He is 24 laps down on this restart, but field, every point, every position will count as he's running for this championship.
Green flag. Kyle Busch is our leader. He stayed on the racetrack along with Paul Menard. David Gilliland stayed on the racetrack. David Green has moved up into the 4th position. 3 wide. Denny Hamlin on the outside.
This looks a lot like last week when Denny stayed out and everybody else came in. It's kind of the same scenario we had right here. It'll be interesting to see how this works out for Kyle Busch.
That's Joel Kaufman's onboard we were looking at. There's Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, the 21 car. That's Ashton Lewis, the Team Marines Ford right in front of them, the 25. Back to our lead, Kyle Busch. 2, 3 wide here.
Harvick's had his hands full all night. He's in the middle of everything.
Clint Boyer right there looks to trouble. Jason Leffler, the 38 car.
.34 call, hard impact with the inside of the wall on the backstretch there.
That's Jeff Fuller in the 34 car. Jason Leffler gets his car moving. Not sure exactly what happened to Jason Leffler. 2 weeks in a row, bad luck for Jason Leffler. Last week he never even took the green flag, and this week early on, trouble.
Yeah, we're at lap 29. He's got a lot of damage to his car right there. Didn't see exactly what happened over in the turn 2 area. We've been worried about turn 3. Seems like that's where most of the action goes on in those areas, but it's been everywhere but there tonight.
Classic case of the phrase we use a lot in racing: cautions breed cautions. We just get back from a restart. Some guys with new tires, some guy with old tires, and a lot of guys got a lot of different things going on, and they seem to keep bunching themselves up and causing these problems.
We'll sort it all out when we come back as they make repairs to the Great Clips Chevrolet of Jason Leffler. We'll be back with more Busch Series racing from Kentucky Speedway. Welcome back to Kentucky Speedway, NASCAR Busch Series racing on FX. We're under caution right now for an incident on the backstretch. Jason Leffler, the 38 Great Clips Chevrolet, had some trouble, got turned around coming off turn number 2, and Jeff Fuller, in trying to avoid him, made some contact with the inside wall. NASCAR is working right now to get Jeff out of that car. They are going to cut the roof off, and a lot of times that just makes it easier to get the driver out.
That was a hard hit. He did a good job to avoid the 38, but that was a big wreck.
Yeah, the 38 second week in a row. I mean, having problems. He just got turned around on the backstretch, and Jeff Fuller comes off and he's got 2 choices. He can hit the 38 in the side, and he takes evasive action and ends up making contact with the inside wall, as you see the damage there on the 38 car on pit road.
Yeah, Jeff Fuller in the 34 car did not run into the 38 of Jason Leffler. He was trying to avoid him and did avoid him, and he made some contact with the inside wall over in the center of the backstretch. Jason Leffler will continue to come down pit road to make repairs. There's a good shot of Clint Boyer, a 2 car. He's in the 14th position right now. Kyle Busch continues to lead here at Kentucky Speedway. Paul Menard 2nd, David Gilliland in 3rd. Kyle Busch trying to overcome a poor race last week at Nashville. Done a great job, had a good qualifying effort. Got our lead right now. We're going to sort it out, and we'll be back to Kentucky Speedway for more Busch Series racing right after this. We're back at Kentucky Speedway, NASCAR Busch Series racing on FX. NASCAR has decided to stop the field. They're parked over as the exit of turn number 4. There you see Kyle Busch, the Lowe's Chevrolet. He's our leader. Paul Menard second. David Gillen with a great run in third. David Green fourth. And Tim Sauter in the 36 car in fifth. NASCAR is working to remove Jeff Fuller from his car on the backstretch. Jason Leffler had some trouble, spun out coming off turn number 2. And trying to avoid Jason Leffler, Jeff Fuller made some contact with the inside wall. There's a view of Carl Edwards right there. He's being shown 23 laps down. Lost a transmission on the very start of the race. Was forced into the pits and had to go to the garage area to change transmissions, and currently running 23 laps down.
That makes for a long night or a long day, you know, when you have problems like that right off the bat and you're just doing all you can to go out there and collect points.
And we know he's got a good car, and that's what's really frustrating, Hermie, when you're 23 laps down, but you know you've got a car capable of running up front.
Yeah, but he's certainly aware that, you know, every point is crucial, you know, in this battle for the Busch Series Championship. You know, Kevin Harvick has some problems too, but, you know, he was able to stay on the lead lap and has been making some progress back up through the field. And so these guys have got to get back on the racetrack, get as many points in position as they can, is to not get, you know, Kevin Harvick's already got a 275 or so point lead, and they can't afford to let Kevin Harvick get completely out of sight. So they got to get every lap they can, every point they can moving forward.
We're getting reports that Jeff Fuller was moving as you see them loading him in the ambulance. They will, I'm sure, take him to the infield care center to be checked out, and we will give you an update just as soon as we get one from NASCAR. Here's a look at what happened. You're going to see Jason Leffler, top right of your screen, have some trouble off turn number 2 there. He's already made contact with the outside wall. Here comes Jeff Fuller to avoid hitting him right in the door. He turns his car hard left, but unfortunately he's not going to be able to spin it around. He's going to make some awfully hard contact with the inside wall.
Phil couldn't hit it in a worse place. I mean, it was an angle to the opening on the pit, inside wall on the backstretch. There's an opening there. Hit at a bad angle, hit flat, you know, right there. Just a bad place to do that. But what Jeff Fuller was trying to do was trying to avoid hitting Jason Leffler. You know, you're thinking it looks like there's a lot of time to make decisions here, but this is a split-second decision, you know, from Jeff Fuller to come. If you'll notice, as he comes into the picture here, he's heading right for the door for Jason Leffler, decides to make a hard left to miss contact with Jason Leffler, and went right into the inside wall, hit it, you know, at exactly the wrong spot where that opening is on that flat contact. And as you know, that flat part of the wall there is a bad place to do it.
Guys, there's Jason Leffler right there. Watch his right hand there. You see him moving his right hand. That's a great thing to see right there.
Jeff Fuller right there.
Yeah, that's a good thing to see. It looked like, you know, like you were saying, Hermie, he did a great job to miss that. You can see how fast they're going right here.
You look at that at speed. It really puts it into perspective, the kind of contact he made with the inside wall. So very, very good sign to see away from Jeff Fuller.
You can see it right here on this shot. You can see the safer barriers right there. Unfortunately, in that part of the racetrack, there were not any safer barriers. And as you mentioned, Hermie, Jeff Fuller made some contact right at the opening, so the angle was even probably worse than it would have been otherwise. Mark, give us an update.
Well, you know, guys, you talked about Jeff Fuller moving. Earlier, he had radioed to his crew that he told them basically, I'm okay, but I'm in a lot of pain. And, of course, that's sort of a good thing, because he never apparently lost consciousness despite that very heavy wreck. And they're certainly going to take him to the infield care center, and I bet that he'll go to the local hospital for at least a checkup. But really good news when he radioed his crew and said that, you know, I'm okay, guys.